Alrighty, so it was a pretty good night last night. Everything, it looked different, that's for sure. But however, I'm not exactly thrilled right now, um, because I really should be thrilled. But it's confirmed to me that the sports media hates the Cleveland Browns, hates Baker Mayfield, and wants us to fail and flop all the time. And it's obvious. Um, I've questioned that before, but it's blatantly obvious they hate us and they want us to fail. Every single sports network, for the most part, almost every single sports commentator, had basically nothing good to say about the Cleveland Browns, nothing good to say about Baker Mayfield, um, and it's sad because all of last season, we've been waiting to see this. The offense finally clicked. Finally. It finally clicked. We've been waiting for this for so long. All of this week, all I heard was bench the quarterback, get rid of him, start Case Keenum, fire the coach, he's terrible. We're same old Browns, 0-16. And guess what? We come out on a Thursday night game, and the offense literally dominates. Baker Mayfield had one of the best games of his career. It wasn't the best, but it was certainly one of the best. Coming off of that terrible season last year and the terrible start this year, he looked fantastic. He had one bad play, really, one bad play. And yeah, he didn't complete every single pass like Gardner Minshew, but one play. That's really all that went wrong for Baker Mayfield. And you would think if you turned on ESPN today, FS1, you would think that the Browns won solely off of their run game and that Baker just, he was decent. He was all right. It's frustrating to me because all I've heard all week is how terrible he is, and he's, I've been defending Baker forever. And if you know me, you know that. You know that I've been defending him forever. And finally it works. Finally everything goes great. And guess what? They're acting as if Baker threw 3 interceptions and completed 50% of his completions. And it's sad to me because no matter how good this team is, the sports media will always hate us. And that's just what it is. And, you might be a fan of another team and you might be watching this and going, oh, come on. But it's real. It's real. And there's a reason why we say Ohio against the world. And yes, I know the Bengals are technically in Ohio, but there's a hatred for the Browns in the sports media. I have no clue why, but only Cleveland can turn a terrible, horrible-looking offense to a dominant, just productive offense, completely flip the switch, and they don't care. So, should that bother me? No, but does it? Yes, because I finally thought, all of this talk they've been doing, hating on us, hating on Baker, finally they'll shut up and at least say, yeah, they looked great. But no, that didn't happen. So, it is what it is. If you watch the game, you know what happened. 35-30 was not how close it really was. The Bengals scored a last-minute, garbage time touchdown. And I'm not saying they didn't earn it because Joe Burrow marched up and down that field. But, the game wasn't, it's not like the Bengals could have won. The Bengals could have won. We almost gave that game away. But with that being said, it's just amazing how you watch one thing and then everybody's saying the opposite happened. So, but let's get into it. So, number one, this is no longer the Battle of Ohio. This is the War of Ohio. These two quarterbacks are going to lead their teams to war every time these two play. Watching that game last night, it looked like Baker versus Mahomes when Baker was at OU and Patrick Mahomes was at Texas Tech. When it was just back and forth, score, score, score. That is exactly what it felt like, and it's what it looked like, frankly. And yes, all these people saying, well, it's the Bengals. It's the Bengals. Well, guess what? You were the same people before the game that said the Browns were going to get blown out. So you have no room to talk. You have absolutely no room to talk. You say you act like we're going to get blown out. You say how terrible we are all week, and then we prove you wrong, and then you want to act like it doesn't matter. Shut up. I'm so sick and tired of these people who think they know what they're talking about. It's insane. But anyway, Joe Burrow was phenomenal. There's a lot of people saying, well, you can't crown him after 2 games. People are trying to put him in the Hall of Fame already. Yes, I understand that, but at the same time, he looks like a multi-year pro. Like, he looks like this is his 4th, 5th year in the league, and he's already been to the Pro Bowl. I mean, he's just handling things as an NFL veteran would at his position. He looked fantastic. I mean, the Bengals are going to get him murdered if they try to pass 60 times a game, because he can't. Most of his passes were the mid passing game to just the under routes because he couldn't hold on to the ball because he was getting murdered. Our defensive line did a fantastic job. Now, they didn't finish all the time. Burrow was able to get away. But they did a pretty good job up front. They did. I mean, Myles Garrett, big plays. Larry Ogunjobi got pressure. Sheldon Richardson was unstoppable almost all game. Olivier Vernon was out. Porter Gustin came in for Adrian Claiborne. Adrian Claiborne looked pretty good. Porter Gustin, he might be better than Olivier Vernon, honestly. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But that defensive line was great. It was great. I mean, they can't handle the entire, game, but, for what they did a pretty good job. And then the linebackers were awful. I thought B.J. Goodson had a solid game, but other than that, Sione Takitaki did not impress me at all. Just some of the other guys that were in rotation were not good. You look at the secondary, Denzel Ward had A.J. Green locked up, and I had A.J. Green starting on my fantasy team. And I thought, because of how depleted the secondary was, he was going to dominate because he seems to do well against the Browns pretty consistently. Denzel Ward pretty much embarrassed him. And you can't really say that about a lot of receivers that Denzel Ward lines up against. Usually it's fairly even for the most part. But Denzel Ward looked like the number 4 pick in the draft last night. And I do think A.J. Green was a little hurt because early on in the game it seemed like he had a leg injury or something. I don't know. To me, it just seemed like A.J. Green wasn't moving at full speed, so maybe it's because of that. But Denzel Ward looked great. Other than that, it was pretty bad. Joe Burrow, I said before the game, if the Browns front 4 on that defensive line do not get to him, Burrow will pick apart this secondary. And he did. And the front 4 still got to him. Now, the positives are the Browns' run defense seems to be very good pretty consistently. Even against the Ravens, the run defense was very good. So that is a positive to take away from, these past 2 weeks on defense, is the run defense has been solid. So when you look at this game and just in general, for the Browns defense, you're facing a very good quarterback with very good receivers. It could have been worse. You didn't allow that deep passing game. The Browns just got to get healthy. That's what it is. This defense, like I said, up front, solid. The linebackers and corners and safeties, other than Denzel Ward, were awful. Just awful. Tavier Thomas cannot be starting at corner. I'm sorry. And I don't know if he was starting, but he played a lot. And nothing against him, but he's a special teams player. You cannot have him playing corner. I thought Mitchell, I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, Mitchell's been playing great. Not good enough, I don't think. Or at least not yet. So I think Greedy Williams has got to get back. Greedy Williams has got to get back. Kevin Johnson's got to get back. Excuse me. They need to be able to kind of rotate through that cornerback room, have depth, because right now Tavier Thomas should not get on the field as a corner, or at least, on defense. And you've seen the effects of a depleted cornerback room. And then as far as the safeties, I thought Greg Joseph was fine. Sendejo still struggled. He can't be starting. Ronnie Harrison, I hope to God that he's going to be up to speed, ready to go for the Washington game. And I think that'll help out a lot if he is. Linebackers, Mac Wilson might be ready for Washington. He's coming back to practice. It's a long shot in 9 days to have him ready, but from what I hear and see, Jacob Phillips should be ready to go. So it's not like the Browns' defense is going to be this bad for much longer. Like I said, you get Mac Wilson back. That is a very good player on your defense who you're going to rely on heavy at a very important position for you that you're low at linebacker. That's going to be huge getting him back. Greedy Williams, Kevin Johnson at corner. That's going to be huge because that secondary sucks. And once Ronnie Harrison gets his defense down, I think he's going to play very well. So if that defensive line continues to do what they do, get back, get healthy, this defense, it's not going to become like a top defense, but it needs to be like in that mid-range, like 15, 16, 17th ranked defense, hopefully better, but they have to get there to allow the Browns defense or offense to do what they do. You don't want each game to become a shootout because, I'll get into the offense in a minute, but, fingers crossed right now that that's what the offense looks like every week. And, yeah, the Bengals defense wasn't great, and we'll talk about that. But the Browns defense, I think it's just a matter of continue to do what you do well, get healthy, get back, get in rhythm. If they can do that, and it's coming at a perfect time. Listen, if they can beat Washington, I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but if the offense can show signs of what they did yesterday evening in that game, and the defense can get back and just do a decent job. I don't think they have to do a great job. Washington doesn't have a lot, so the defense should be able to do a lot better than what they did against the Bengals. Yes, Dwayne Haskins is good, but they don't have nearly the weapons that Joe Burrow had. So defensively, it's going to get better. It's just a matter of when and how quickly these guys can get up to speed. Let's talk about the offense. Let's talk about it. I've been banging the table, trade OBJ. And I had people saying, oh, how do you feel now? Good. This is what you're supposed to do. You're the number one receiver on this team that is stacked. You were traded a big package for, and you haven't paid out or lived up to it yet. And is that at all his fault? No, it's not. Baker was so fixated on him that he sucked. Baker has been terrible because of his fixation on OBJ. That's not OBJ's fault, but there is some blame to go with OBJ too. because, just some of the rhythm stuff, some of the timing stuff, they got to get on the same page. And they did last night, and it's about time. And, I'm not saying OBJ is going to be on this team long term. I'm not. But I'm saying at least through the end of this year, if that's what we can see, good, great. Because if OBJ can do what he did, take away the safety, because of how good he is, that's going to open up so many different things, especially if this run game can continue to do what they do. The offensive line, before we get into much of anything else, the offensive line, Jedrick Wills, he's not going to be watching this video, but Jedrick Wills is spectacular. I made a video saying about how I noticed how bad he was struggling in camp. He has dominated through the first 2 games at left tackle. And I didn't have a worry when we drafted him, but I was a little worried after seeing him in camp. He is going to be so good. Joe Thomas said today, Jedrick Wills at the beginning of the year is going to look way better at the end of the year, because if he's looking this good now and he's picking it up in game time this quick, just wait until just get the game reps, and he was banged up. He was banged up this game. He left early in the Ravens game. Couldn't put any pressure on his leg. Jedrick Wills is a monster. Let's see. Oh crap, I forgot his name. I always do this whenever I think of somebody. It's not Greg Robinson. I keep thinking Greg Robinson. Chris Hubbard. Jeez, oh Pete. Chris Hubbard. He struggled at times last year. It wasn't completely terrible for him. But, when you have a guy like Jack Conklin who's not playing, that's a lot of pressure. And he was banged up too. Chris Hubbard was banged up. And he was not a liability at all. I was worried. I was. And I like Chris Hubbard. But, that's just what you have to deal with. And he absolutely held his own. Great job. You didn't hear anything from Dunlap or Sam Hubbard this game. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And in game 1 against the Chargers, they made some noise. It wasn't fantastic, but they did make some noise. They had an impact. And our tackles are dominant. And Chris Hubbard's not going to be the starter, obviously once Conklin gets back, but man, you need a guy to step in. Great, because it just seems like this system fits him a lot better than Freddie. So, obviously, Treader and Bitonio did their thing. No shock there. I mean, we know how good those guys are. Wyatt Teller had some dumb penalties, but at the beginning of the year, we said this right guard position was going to be a competition. It's his. He secured it, and he's doing a fantastic job. And he also seems to put on some size, and it's helped him a lot. So this Browns offensive line is dominant. And people, I can already hear you. You played the Bengals. Well, guess what? Baker didn't get touched hardly in the Ravens game against a really good defense. A defense that is way better than the Bengals. So that offensive line has dominated twice now against a really, really good defense and then against a probably mediocre defense, but their defensive ends are solid. This offensive line dominating is huge. It's huge. Baker's struggles last year, a big part of them was the lack of trust, lack of protection with the offensive line. That's going to be huge going forward. And they're also really, really good run blockers too. So Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, you can't stop them. And even if you can stop them, passing game, hello. Yeah, the two running backs were dominant, but the one thing I heard was everybody was saying, see, the run games open up the pass game. we started off that game passing like 5 times in a row. And I think the first run we had actually got stuffed. So Baker Mayfield started that game. Like, I don't care what anybody tries to tell you. Baker Mayfield started off that game momentum. And, yes, those two running backs are spectacular, best duo in the league. But Baker Mayfield, he gets so much hate, and, a lot of it is deserved. But when he's on, and, when he gets hot, watch out. That's all I got to say. So, everybody makes fun of me about, Baker sucks. Baker's this. Baker's that. Why do you like him? This is what I've seen. I've watched more highlights and film of Baker than probably anybody else. That is the guy. That's only the start of what he should be. He's still getting acclimated. That's what it needs to be. So, he was spectacular. He wasn't hesitating. And that's the thing. That's why I said trade OBJ. Because before OBJ came, Baker was so locked in on him that he couldn't. Wait a minute. No, I said that wrong. Before we traded OBJ, Baker was just flowing through his reads, hitting his man to a bunch of no-name receivers. And that's why we thought, oh my gosh, you get OBJ, it's going to be dominant. Well, no, the offensive line sucked. Freddie Kitchens sucked. Baker sucked. Because he was so locked in on him, and it didn't work. Game 1, same thing, same problems. This is why, people say, well, you don't want to overreact. You don't want to overreact. It was the Bengals. That offense that you seen last night, like I said earlier, year in the making. We've been waiting for that forever. I was wondering if it ever would come. And, even if we don't see that same offense against Washington, we know it's possible. We know that is there. It's just a matter of getting there. So Baker last night was fantastic because he wasn't looking at one man. He was going through his reads. He was getting out of the pocket and play action, heading his man. He did what he did best. That was his comfort zone. That was Baker Mayfield. And I don't even think that was as good as it's going to get. I think it's going to get way better if that's how he continues to play. And Kevin Stefanski, great job. This is what you were hired to do, and you knocked it out of the park. So, great job. Yeah, the Browns are not getting any love this morning at all. But if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you have got to feel good because, number one, it clicked. It clicked. People aren't going to talk about that. It clicked. When we played the Jets last year, we pretty much dominated, but it didn't click. It didn't look right. It didn't feel right. It just felt like, okay. The score looked good, but it didn't feel right. This felt right. This is what it's supposed to look like. And it's not going to be this every game. It's not, because you're going to face better defenses. You're going to face better D-lines who's going to shut down the run, and then sometimes you're going to have to rely on the pass, and then sometimes you'll have good pass defense, and you have to rely on the run. They just got to balance each other as much as you can, and Kevin Stefanski has proven that he knows how to get the best out of these weapons and out of Baker Mayfield, and that is huge. So while everybody is trying to hate on the Browns and say, oh, well, it's the Bengals, even though they picked the Bengals, I think you have got to look, you got to look at the positives, man. I mean, if you can't look at the positives, then you're going to live a miserable life. And, the Browns have been a miserable team, but you got to take away the positives. This win was huge. This win was huge because the confidence is there. They trust each other. I mean, it's stupid to say, but OBJ sitting with Baker in the middle and Jarvis on the other side, just that friendship, I guess you could say, as stupid as that sounds, the fact that they're happy, it's just something as simple as that goes a long way. And you know, I think if they come out and they look the exact same offensively against Washington, it's going to look harder, or look harder. It's going to be harder because of that Washington defensive line. But like I said, the offensive line's done a fantastic job. So, I mean, I don't think it's ridiculous to be optimistic. There's a lot of people, your Colin Cowherds of the world, who just want to completely act like nothing good happened for the Browns. I think as Browns fans, we just have to realize nobody's going to cheer for us other than us. Nobody's going to be, I don't know, nobody's going to be wanting the best for us except us. And we just got to realize we can't focus in on that. No matter what they say, we just got to come out and we just got to do it. And I think Kevin Stefanski is the right man for the job because he's proven now that, he's a calming presence. Things were chaotic game one. He was calm. Fix the problems. We got to move on. We look great offensively. Yes, it was a little bit of a scare, but the Browns controlled the game for the most part, even though the scoreboard doesn't say it. Like I said, the Bengals had a last-minute, garbage time touchdown, but he was just as calm as in the loss, and that's what this team needs. It needs a steady presence to just keep the train going. So, a lot of time now till the next game. I just hope that, they can watch this game film and fix the offense around what you've seen that worked well from Thursday. Defensively, like I said, guys got to get healthy. Guys got to get on the field. So, I refuse to not be optimistic when I should be. And I don't care what anybody tries to tell me or any other Browns fans. When it works and when everything looks good, it is what it is. So, we did it. That's all I can say. We did it. This offense finally clicked. Never thought it would, and it did. As far as the trade OBJ stuff, you can't right now. I mean, if it goes back to how it used to be, but so anyway, we'll see you in the next video. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe, and whatnot. So, see you later.